NASA just launched the LADEE mission to the moon, and we had a chance to come to the Ames Research Center to talk to some of the folks here about all the work they're doing and the companies that they're working with.
So LADEE is a small spacecraft, a robotic spacecraft that we are sending to the moon, and it's designed to do scientific measurements around the moon and an optical laser communications experiment. We'll take about 3.5 weeks to get to the moon. And then October 6th, we're going to do a big braking burn where we fire our big main engine and capture in orbit around the moon. We stay there for about 1.5 months while we check out the instruments, the science instruments, while LaserCom does their primary experiment. And then we drop down to a very low orbit around the moon. We're flying very close to the lunar surface to do our science. Well, and we use up all our fuel to do that, so at the end of the science phase, we intentionally crash into the moon to end the mission. So it'll never come back.
For LADEE, future aspirations lay within the innovative design of the reusable spacecraft.
Well, this design was not intended for one specific mission. It's a modular spacecraft bus design, and you can put the modules together in different ways for different missions. This particular bus was designed for lunar orbit missions, but it can also do lunar lander missions. It can do Lagrange missions. It can do near-Earth asteroid missions. So it has a wide variety of missions it can target. So once you prove out the bus, we've proved it terrestrially in a lunar lander mode, and now we're proving the bus in a lunar orbiter mission. Once the bus is proven, you can use it for other types of missions and save money because you're not designing stuff from scratch.
The Celtic Tiger is roaring back in Ireland, and it's roaring back in the tech sector.
Ireland is one of the largest exporters of software in the world. 9 of the top 10 software companies have European operations in Ireland. So companies like Microsoft, Salesforce, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn are all using Ireland to access the European market. A lot of these guys have multilingual, multicultural teams carrying out sales, customer support, branding. They do all their finance through European HR in one base, so there's economics of scale around that, and basically they can carry out a number of activities in one location. Also, we have a very good operating environment. It's easy to hire people. Labour law is not restrictive as it is in other European locations. We have very flexible immigration laws. We as an agency help our companies with visa applications to make it as easy as possible for them to get the people that they need. And also we have a very attractive fiscal regime. Ireland is a 12.5% corporate tax rate, so when companies are making a profit, it is nice to have access to a lower tax jurisdiction. We work with companies like Dropbox, Zendesk, HubSpot, Etsy, and Squarespace from New York. All are using Ireland as their international or European or international operating base. There's a big international base tech community, plus this really thriving domestic entrepreneurial activity as well. So together there's a really nice ecosystem there in Ireland.
Robotics and 3D printing, 2 of the most talked about sectors in technology. When you combine them, you get Jimmy here, a robot built using 3D printing. I'm here with Intel's futurist, Brian David Johnson, to talk about Jimmy and the future of robotics. Brian, tell us a little bit about Jimmy.
So Jimmy is a 21st century robot. He was born in science fiction, but he's now open source, he's 3D printable, and he's meant to act and interact with people. He's kind of like a smartphone with legs.
Now, you mentioned the open source for Jimmy. Tell us a little bit about how people have come together to really build Jimmy from the vision that you had in your head to what we see here now.
Yeah, so we started in science fiction. I've been writing science fiction stories trying to understand how people will act and interact with this new type of robot. So it started in science fiction, and I had an illustrator who I worked with by the name of Sandy Winkleman, who really did the first drawings of Jimmy. And then as we started to realize with 3D printing, with the advances in microprocessors, and with really the maker community, that we could actually bring him to life. So we started working with a 3D animator and a 3D designer by the name of Wayne Losey. And he actually then took those illustrations, turned them into this, what you see today. And now what we're doing is we have teams of makers and students who are coming together and actually building 10 different versions of Jimmy, so that we can have both the hardware and the software and bring everybody together in November to a robotic maker fair. And we're going to get a bunch of people together to think about how could they use it. Because it's so personalized and it's so app-based, you can actually write apps and put apps into Jimmy. You can decide what you want your robot to be.